So today we will be going over chapter 13, which is peers, media, and schooling. However, that's the chapter's name. We will focus on peers and media and not on schooling. And so you just finished an in-class activity where I asked you to think about what friendship means to you. What is a good friend in your perspective? I asked also about whether you're still friends with your childhood best friend. And if not, why not? Why or why not? And I also asked how you find the social environment at Bilkent, because sometimes when I get very bored and I have time, I actually go visit the social networking sites. And I see a lot of complaints from Bilkent students about how lonely they are at Bilkent, how they couldn't make a friend. Many of them are also complaining about not being able to find a girlfriend, I feel like. So I feel like there are a lot of lonely boys out there. Let's not stereotype. Let's not generalize. It could be at any. Yeah, I have not carried out an empirical study to test whether the students at the philosophy department are with or without partners, for example. But I wanted to understand, so to me, when I look at you from a different perspective, I see a lot of diversity, actually. Some complain about everybody being one type, but I see a lot of diversity. Like just looking at you in this class, I know more or less who's friends with who because you guys seem to sit together. You walk out together when you're going out for a break. And I see you around too. And it seems like what was very striking to me after being away for a long time, almost a decade in the States, and also what was striking to, say, Jed when we came back, having been familiar with the States at the schools at the States, and friendships there, seemed like there were no loners here. So like back in the States, it was very common to see people who had no friends, right? And I'm not saying they're friendless, but the kind of camaraderie I see here of you guys kind of sticking together was new to me. For example, I had many people come to me and ask, like, I'm not taking your class, but can I come this lecture? And I would ask why, because my best friend is taking your course too. That's okay. You know, this person, he or she, may start getting interested in psychology, or better yet, developmental psychology, just because they came into a class. I know a professor who actually got married to a girl he met when he was taking a psychology class. So he was actually not a psychology student. He decided to take a psychology class because there were so many girls. And this is a true story. I'm not going to give a name, and this person is not Turkish. And this person is not at Bilkent either. I know this person from the States. And he went to this class just so that he could met this woman, fell in love with her. Thank God she fell in love with him. And they're married, they have a daughter. And so psychology courses are very productive, as you can see. But yes, and so this is, by the way, for your information, in the future, to sometimes students also come and say, can my girlfriend or can my boyfriend come to class? Now, that's a different matter. I say, if you're going to hold hands and look at one another's eyes, don't. But if you're going to come and actually listen to the lecture, not be disruptive, why not? Yes. So I had one, okay, I have to tell this. Last year when I was teaching, I think this course, yes, this course, a student came and said, can my girlfriend come? She's from out of town. She just came to visit me. I don't want her to sit outside, wait for me. I'm sure she's going to be interested. I said, okay. I told him the same thing. If you're going to hold hands, outside. He said, okay. And I forgot about it. And as I'm lecturing, of course, you know, the ones that actually look at me attentively, I tend to make eye contact with. I'm a human being, not a robot. So I don't randomly make eye contact. I look at people who are looking back at me. And there's this girl sitting right there where you are, and she has these big eyes, and she's writing, and she's looking, she's writing, she's looking. It's a 2-hour course, and I keep looking at her. I'm like, of course, you know, I'm not good with names, right? So I'm thinking, and not with good with faces either. So I'm thinking, this girl is in my class. And I'm like, I must learn her name. I'm very curious now. Who's this very attentive girl? And why didn't I see her before? Then I realized it's the girlfriend who took it very seriously when I said, listen to class. But she was here for a week. She came to my other lecture too. Yes. And so, anyway, so friendship does change. And we're going to talk a little bit about how it changes. I want you to reflect back on your own memories to make meaning of what we are going to be talking about today. So first year of life, friendship isn't the kind of friendship we understand, right? We see that if babies are put together, they may show looking and touching at 3 to 4 months, but these are not really coordinated. You know how I said, I'm looking at you because you're looking back at me too? This isn't like that. This is a little bit more self-initiated. And peer-directed smiles and babbling start again around this time. But there's infrequent reciprocal exchange. This increases over the first year of life. With the second year, we start seeing infants start offering objects. But wait, this doesn't mean they give the object. Actually, in this period, with parents too, they may extend their arm but not let go. And so it's not a total sharing. So I'm trying to say these things so you don't overly romanticize like babies being friends. They start sharing positive emotions. If one smiles, the other smiles back. And mutual imitation, again, not very sophisticated, like jumping around, banging objects. Whatever their capacity is at the time, they're very cognitively limited. They're limited in motor ability too. And so they show some mutual imitation. The warmth of the parent-child relation matters in terms of how responsive a child is to others. And if the child is in daycare, and not all children at this age are, the quality of daycare matters. So how many adults are there for how many children? Does this child get warm, one-to-one adult attention? So is this child used to being in social exchange with others? These are important. Temperament is also important, which is not written here. There are children who are more fearful and shy. They're more outgoing children as well, so that also might matter. Later, in preschool years, the context in which friendships are formed, they're practiced, becomes play. And in play, children may together act out emotionally arousing events, such as going to the doctor's office. And both to get over those emotions and how emotionally arousing they are, but also to together make meaning of that situation. They also later will practice conflict resolution and negotiation. So they will inevitably get into fights, and they will have to resolve issues. Sometimes at earlier ages, these issues might go unresolved unless an adult intervenes. But by 4 or 5 years of age, we start seeing negotiation skills form. Where children start understanding that if they want to keep playing together, they will need to learn to sacrifice or compromise, for example. So Parton has, in the 30s, looked at children and how they play together. And she found that there were 5 different categories, and these categories increased in its social nature, from non-social activities to social activities. So the onlooker behavior is when children watch other children play, but they don't actually play themselves. Solitary is when a child plays alone. Parallel are 2 children playing next to one another. From a distance, you might think these 2 kids are actually playing together, but if you do get closer, you realize that they're not playing together. They may be talking, but talking to themselves, for example. You see this a lot in sand play. You see kids that are building castles side by side, but everybody's building their own castle. Nobody's actually talking to one another. Associative play. Here, children engage in separate play activities, not exchange, engage in separate play activities, but they may exchange toys or comment on the other's play. So they're still immersed in their own world, but from time to time they will actually take an interest on what the other is doing and comment. But this is fleeting, how collaborative this is. The real collaborative play, the one that we stereotype as young children doing, I be the mom, you be the dad, I'll be the family dog, you be the family cat. You know, that kind of let's go to the doctor's office, that kind of play actually is a later achievement. Starts with 3 years of age, but doesn't really become reciprocal. Children cannot maintain it on their own for very long at that age, but by 4 or 5 we see a lot of cooperative play. And cooperative play especially helps children with both practicing their language, but also with perspective taking, with negotiation and conflict resolution skills, with emotion regulation. And it's a very good context to learn these things. That's why when parents ask, when should I send my child to preschool? You probably want your child to start getting preschool experience definitely by the age of 4. Preferably, 3 years is a good time to start. You can start half day with at 3 years, for example, if you wished. But in any case, a 4-year-old should get the benefit, if you can afford it, of regular peer interaction. The thing is, though, the non-social type of activities do not disappear as children get older. Meaning, young children may exhibit more onlooker behavior, but a 5-year-old still will show onlooker behavior from time to time. There is nothing wrong with that. Younger children who are in mixed age groups, who are in mixed age classrooms, for example, if there's a classroom where 3 and 4-year-olds are together, 3-year-olds might show more onlooker behavior at first because they're trying to figure out what to do. And that there's nothing to be anxious about. It's a frequent concern of parents. Sometimes they say, my child cannot seem to participate in play, seems to be drifting around. Depending on the child's age, this might actually be very typical as well. But a 5-year-old who keeps showing onlooker behavior might actually be having trouble either in participating in social play or being able to start and maintain solitary play, which again could be a cause for concern. Solitary and parallel forms of play will still exist, and again there's nothing wrong with it, but what's going to happen is that the type of parallel and solitary play will change, and it's going to become more complicated, more cognitively sophisticated. So we see, for example, functional play, where simple repetitive motor movements with or without objects. Now this is the simplest form of play, one of the simplest forms. So this might be something like just riding a car again and again. Here we think that this would probably be seen in younger children's solitary play, but older children, 4-year-olds, 5-year-old children, will show less functional play. And it will be replaced by make-believe play and constructive play. We know what these things are. Constructive play, when children build things out of other objects, like, a castle, a house, whatever, a car. And around 5, 6 years of age, and then continuing into middle childhood, games with rules will start, so children will start playing games with rules. Peer sociability in middle childhood and adolescence, the contact with peers becomes much more frequent, and adolescents and older children come in contact with a more diverse array of peers. So their friends from early childhood are probably either cousins, people who are living in the same neighborhood or apartment building, mother's friends' kids, father's friends' kids. But with adolescents, the peer group starts diversifying as well. This, of course, the first start of it becomes primary school, but then it becomes even more diverse. And in middle childhood and adolescence, we see more efficient ways of applying perspective taking, and we see more prosocial acts being helping others, sharing with others, for example. So we see more of this. Boys may engage in rough and tumble play in middle childhood. It is said that there is an evolutionary purpose to this. It is possible that back in the day, it actually served the purpose of learning or exercising certain activities that would be important for survival. But in today's world, it basically serves to establish a dominance hierarchy. So who's more powerful than the other kind of thing. But this rough and tumble decreases in adolescence. So beginning 11, 12 years of age, you are going to observe less rough and tumble. And when it does happen, it happens with more aggressive undertones. See, rough and tumble is still play. So both parties know they're playing. They're just playing around physically, right? They might be tumbling around. They might be trying to catch one another. There's physicality involved, but it is not aggressive. Both parties are having fun. In adolescence, when you see it, it might have a more aggressive tone where one party actually doesn't want to be a part of this play. Parents and cultural values and other aspects of the context have influences on peer sociability. Parents have both direct and indirect influences. Direct influence, among the direct influences, we can see are they can arrange informal peer activities, so they can start play groups, for example, invite other mothers and their children for birthday parties, for get-togethers, take their children to a place for an activity, and they also provide guidance to their children on how to behave in different situations to others. And they also monitor the activities. When children get older, when they become adolescents, think back to your own parents where you were 14, 15, 16. Probably your parents knew where you were, right? You weren't like, okay, see you later, Mom, on a Saturday, and left. I'm thinking most of your parents, if not all of your parents, actually knew where you were going. And so this monitoring of activities also is an indirect influence on the peer social relations. Indirect relations are secure attachment. So children, adolescents who have secure attachments, warm relations with their parents, will also seek warm relations with other peers. And this reminds me of an exam question that I just graded also. Why is attachment relations continuous? It is because of internal working models, right? And in this chapter too, you're going to see it again says, go back to chapter such and such, internal working models, yes. So the continuity is not across generations only, but it's also because of the model that the child is established with caregivers, mother, father, that child also establishes an internal working model that gives meaning to who self is, whether self is worthy of love, how and when would self receive love, what type of relation would satisfy the self, and hence carries that over to relations with peers. Parent-child play is also important. Again, it's for the warmth of the bond. Authoritative parenting, where parents are warm but also firm, also provides a nice space for children to start interacting with other peers. And parents on social networks. If parents have friends, like they're sociable people, they have friends that they like, then children also are more likely to have a wider array of friends, a higher number of friends as well. Age mix. Children are affected by the composition of the age for their peer group. So children benefit differently from both same age and mixed age interactions. In the preschool setting, young children who play with older preschoolers may actually show higher or more sophisticated forms of play at younger ages. So it seems like they're really being scaffolded by the older peers. But also same age peers provide an invaluable resource to practice negotiation and conflict. Because if one party is older than the other, then there's some asymmetry in that relation, where if the other one child is younger, the older one might try to tune his or her behavior for the needs of the other. So for example, may not want to fight with a young child, so gives in, right? If a 7-year-old is playing with a 4-year-old, the 7-year-old may sacrifice or compromise more so that the 4-year-old keeps playing. But if 2 4-year-olds are playing, they will not show that kind of tolerance to one another. So same age means symmetry in that relation, and actually is effective for teaching negotiation and conflict resolution. Do cultural values have an effect on peer sociability? It seems like there is some effect. For example, in India, which characterizes a collectivistic culture, we see children playing in larger groups. In China, shy children, temperamentally shy children, are accepted into groups easier than in individualistic societies. But we also saw in an earlier chapter that this was changing as China opened its economy to the West and became more capitalistic. It seemed like more traditional values, such as valuing shyness and inhibition, led its way to assertion. And so this needs to be replicated with today's Chinese children as well. Parents' expectations also may vary with cultural values. The daily routine that parents expect their children to follow may change. For example, Asian adolescents spend more time doing homework. I giggled to myself while I was preparing the slide. I thought maybe I should add Bilkent students also spend a lot of time doing homework and projects. But it doesn't seem like you are short on friendship, which is a good thing. Because what? We do collaborative projects, yes. And so that was such a sinister laugh. Okay. So here you see different countries, United States, Western Europe, and East Asia. The red one is the free time, and the yellow one is the time devoted to homework. And you can see that the time devoted to homework seems to be increasing as you go to the east from the United States. Friendships. Friendships are close relationships involving companionship in which each partner wants to be with the other. But how does this all start? You thought about your ideal friendship at this age. But between 4 and 7 years, it is very simple. It's extremely simple. Being friends means someone who likes you, someone who you like, someone who wants to play with you, someone who wants to share toys with you. It does not seem to have this enduring, continuous, deep meaning. And hence, it's easily dissolved. For example, if one party does not share the toy, then those 2 kids may decide they're not friends anymore. And if you go to collect data at a preschool, and if they decide that they like you, the children, you're going to hear them come to you and say, I'm going to invite you to my birthday party, which means we are friends now, by the way. But you ask, when is the birthday? And usually I used to know the birthdays because I go testing. And on the day of testing, I would have to calculate their age by month and day. So I really need to know their birthdays. I would know that, for example, the child's birthday is 8 months away and is telling me, I will invite you to my birthday party, which means I like you, right? It's that simple. But later it gets all very complicated. In middle childhood, children start valuing intimacy, especially for girls, intimacy. And also for both boys and girls, trust, mutual. Can I trust this person? Would this person have my back? And so children appreciate each other's qualities. They respond to each other's needs and desires. And trust and the consequent kindness becomes very important. So if this person is your friend, you can trust this person to give you kindness when you need it. If you're hurt, this person will be there for you. If you're sad, this person will be there for you. And so that becomes important. And friendships dissolve not because one person decides they will not share, but when one party violates the trust of the other. So withholding help when the other one is in need, breaking a promise, or gossiping becomes serious offenses that may jeopardize a friendship. I mean, it's not like this goes away, right? For your friendships too, I'm thinking that this actually is still, these are no-nos. Yes. So what is intimacy? It's a mutual understanding of values, beliefs, and feelings. Along with it, so intimacy gets even stronger in adolescence. Again, very important for girls. Loyalty becomes also an issue. So will this person have my back under any condition, no matter what? And friends are perceived as, at this point, agents of support in times of distress. And so they are actually filling in not a void, but see, parents were the source of support or the sole source of support for very young children. And now it's not that parents are becoming less important. It is that peers are becoming as important as parents. Because studies show that even when adolescents spend a lot of time with their parents, they actually, with their peers and less time with their parents, in times of dire stress, parents are, again, the first people they turn to. And so that secure base is still there. It hasn't gone anywhere. But at adolescents, now young people have to start experiencing with their age mates to try to see if they can establish these secure bases with them. Okay, so friendships become more selective with age. In early adolescence, children typically report about 4 to 6 very good friends or best friends. But in emerging adulthood, this number goes down to 1 to 2. And it's remarkably stable at all ages, but younger children are more dependent on environment. Meaning, for example, if classroom changes, so go back again to your primary school years, 1st grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade. If all of a sudden you were placed in another classroom with other peers, your friendships take a hit, right? It becomes very hard to actually maintain them. And so context has a huge effect on younger children's friendships.
What do you mean by remarkably stable?
I mean that kids who report being friends with one another do report being friends with one another a year later too. But do they 10 years later, hence the question I asked you, I don't know. When does it become less dependent on the environment? In early adolescence, it definitely does. By late middle childhood, it also starts becoming less dependent. But in early childhood and in early middle childhood, it is more context dependent. It's also now becoming much easier to actually maintain friendships over distances with technology, correct? So if your best friend today moves to a different city, it's no longer a mystery. Some of this research is still being reported from the 90s where the same technology wasn't available that allowed children to communicate with ease. So your book reports for the US sample that about 70% of 12 to 14-year-olds now have cell phones. I don't know what the numbers are in Turkey, but for middle class, I would assume similar numbers would probably still hold, because apparently US parents report that their purpose in buying the cell phone was so that they would know where their children are, and that would make them feel safer. Turkish mothers, if I know Turkish mothers, always want to know where you are. And so I'm thinking for those who can afford it, phones are pretty prevalent, which means that kids can transcend the limits of context, the physical context, much easier. So this could be an interesting question to look at too. Okay, interactions between friends compared to non-friends. So is it beneficial? Does your friend actually behave differently towards you when you are a child? Yes. Even for preschoolers, if you observe them with friends versus with people who are not friends, you see more positive interaction, more emotional expression, more prosocial behavior, and more self-disclosure. There's a very nice table, a graph in your book that actually shows amount of self-disclosure as a function of person. So is it to parents, is it to friends, and then is it to romantic partners? Yes. And so first it's parents, then it is friends, and later the person you disclose most to becomes a romantic partner. If no romantic partner, friends. At least that's what the graph shows. Look at the graph. Okay. But we have to say that friendship is not all flowers and butterflies. There's also disagreement and competition in friendship, even among best friends, which again could still be functional because you have to maintain your friendship. You can't agree on everything. I mean, if your friend is agreeing at all times, under all conditions, for all decisions with you, there's something strange going on, right? Either your friend is too submissive, something is happening. So the disagreement is a part of friendship, and competition can also be a part of friendship too. But aggressive friends can lead to hostile relations. And we're going to see that aggressive children will tend to become friends with aggressive children because they won't be able to make friends with less aggressive children. They'll be pushed out of those groups. And that becomes a very destructive and symbiotic relationship. That's coming up in later slides, so we'll talk more about it. Resemblances between, does your friend resemble you? This doesn't have to mean look like you, right? But is your friend similar to you in important ways is what we are wondering. Generally, friends resemble one another in age, in sex, in ethnicity, and in SES. In early childhood, most friendships are out of convenience, and so children friend whoever's in the environment, really. And starting middle childhood, they start seeking similarities, and these similarities may be personalities such as sociability, aggression, depression, popularity, academics, prosocial behavior, how helpful is this person, and judgments of others. There could be bias and stereotypes in play too. And so that starts in middle childhood. Adolescence, then we see that pairs of friends actually have similar identity status, remember from the previous chapters, educational aspirations, political beliefs, and also not everything is, again, butterflies and flowers, risky behavior too. So this could include substance abuse, this could include drunk driving, risky behavior, sexual risky behavior. So these seem to go together as well. Similarities generally increase the supportiveness between friends. Adolescents may explore identity by making different friends. This doesn't mean that I'm kind of surprised that nobody raised their hand and said, my friends are always different than me. Your friends could be different than you. This doesn't mean that all of your friends are similar to you, especially in adolescence. And I believe also university is a time where you start experimenting with becoming friends with people maybe whom you've never met before, who are very different than you as well. You can do that too. But early adolescents are drawn to others by popularity and attractiveness. So, I'm coming. So it might be that a child who's medium popular may become friends with, or may want to or aspire to become friends with someone who's really popular, right? And so you can see that that similarity may not hold. They may also be attracted to visibility established by aggression. Again, we will talk about this. Next semester, 350, there's going to be a chapter on aggression and bullying. But in early adolescence, so what are we talking about? 11 to 14, 12 to 14 years of age. Aggression becomes a source of popularity for both boys and girls. For girls, relational aggression. You know the Mean Girls movie? Yes, right. So girls are not immune to this. So these girls or boys who are a little bit more aggressive become liked or revered by their peers. Thank God this actually does decrease with age. And they may also seek the similar individuals to explore new perspectives. Yes, Yaren. Why do we tolerate them, you think? Why not tolerate them earlier? What happens when we get older? We understand their perspectives? Yes, Ipek? Theory of mind? Social understanding. Like when we label, I know where you're going, and I think you're going to a right place. However, theory of mind has been used very restrictively. The term itself, it seems like it only is about the 4-year shift or the 6-year shift. Hence, I probably would talk about perspective taking or social cognition at this age group. But I know where you're going, and it's the right direction. It's just that the label doesn't apply very well because of how we use it. Sex differences in friendships. In middle childhood, sex differences start emerging. Not that little boys don't like playing with little boys or vice versa. Little girls don't prefer little girls. They do. But in middle childhood, all of a sudden we see this more strict preferences to play with one's own sex. Boys seek activities to do together, and here friendships are more variable. It might depend on what team the boy is. We're about playing basketball together, playing soccer together, and it also depends on gender identity. If the boy is identifying highly with masculine traits, then they're going to basically seek more same-sex array of friends. Girls, at this point in time, are looking for emotional closeness. Think back, ladies. I only have 2 boys in class. It's an improvement from Monday, where I only had Ramazan. I have been secretly giving Ramazan bonus points every time he's the only guy in class. But ladies, think back to 3rd grade, 4th grade. Probably you're going to think about best friends, sharing intimate details. And they get together just to talk, for example. Yes. And there's a danger of co-rumination. What's rumination? Do you remember what rumination might be? Rumination is dwelling on a past experience. But keep talking. Rumination is, it's like targeting that behavior, not being able to stray away from it. Co-rumination, I'll keep explaining. Co-rumination is when 2 people get together and keep talking about a past event. And usually we ruminate about negative events. For example, depression brings rumination. You selectively attend to negative memories and you ruminate about them. You keep thinking about them. So ladies get together, young girls get together, and they also co-ruminate. So this is a little bit dangerous. Everybody looks perplexed, but you must have friends who keep going back to the negative. Like, it's been 6 months since she broke up with that boyfriend. And she still keeps bringing up that one fight that they had as if it happened yesterday. Huh? Yes, you know co-rumination. But good friends co-ruminate together. For a while, you listen, you react as if it happened yesterday. Yes. Other sex friends, it's interesting. Around this age, either very popular or very unpopular children seem to choose other sex friends. So the person is popular enough that they could, this is a girl, let's think about a girl, they could have boyfriends who are not boyfriends, or unpopular enough that, again, that becomes the case. Yaren.
I was gonna ask why this, ben sadece erkeklerle arkadaş oluyorum.
This.
Yeah, some girls go like, I can only just hang out with boys, or I can only.
It's less drama.
It's what?
It's less drama.
Less drama.
Yeah.
Females are always drama.
I'm not asking why.
She's not saying why are boys a better choice.
Yeah.
She's asking why are some girls exclusively preferring to friend girls? Why? So I think that when you say drama, I take what you're saying as meaning girls have more drama. Is that?
Interacting with girls are more drama.
Yes. So her question is just the opposite. Why would then some girls only select to be friends with girls?
No, I'm not asking that.
Huh.
I'm asking why some girls only selecting to be friends with some boys, but not like.
Huh, boys.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there girls who only friend boys?
Yeah, they just play.
In middle childhood,
Kind of.
not adolescence. We're not thinking about Bilkent. We're going back to when you are 4th grader, 5th grader, those times. 4. sınıf, 5. sınıf.
Oh, a little bit later than
A
that.
little, yes, a little bit later.
Like
So,
middle school,
huh.
7th grade.
sometimes it's interesting that some girls, you remember, gender identification is an important point. Also, some girls might be more active than others. They might actually be into sports as well. You know, do you know, like, there's always a girl who's the tallest girl in class who seems to hang out with boys more, right? Not because of her height only, but might be that that person might be very much interested in the physical activities that the boys are doing as well. It could be that the girl has poor social relations, cannot handle all this intimacy and closeness. See, we sometimes say we don't want things when we can't do them too. We have to keep that in mind as well. And so there's the cognitive dissonance, a cover story. And so it might be that too. Later in life, I mean, you're not asking for my personal opinion, I think. I'm not here for a personal opinion, but I'm going to give it anyways. Yes! I mean, I do find that I understand what Selin's saying too. For me, it was always easier because when a boy says something, they kind of mean what they say. There isn't 6 layers of subtext to read, right? And more importantly, they usually say the same thing to whoever. So Ahmet comes, they say the same thing. Mehmet comes, they say the same thing. I kind of find that I am unable to track what the girls are saying to one another, right? And so I understand it's a little bit more simple. This is all subjective. We have just ventured away from science. And we're talking about anecdote right now, but it seems like a higher theory of mindability, for the lack of a better word, is required to navigate the female social world, which is like the wilderness, in my point of view. There's panthers, lions, yes. Sorry, I'm too far away to hear, yes.
Don't you think it also has to do with internalized misogyny?
What do you mean by that? Internalized misogyny, could it be related to it, she says?
No, it is. I'm not like other girls, you know, like differentiating from like yourself from your gender because you think your gender is a bad thing, or certain aspects of your gender, you know.
Why not? Why not? Didn't we see that some females actually find it more comfortable to be in more androgynous gender identities because it allows them to do more? Didn't we also see that females also rate gender-typed female occupations as less prestigious than others? It is possible. I think it's entirely possible also. I think it's a good idea. Okay. Thank you very much. Is it a good place to stop? Benefits. Okay, benefits of friendships, and then I'm stopping for a break. Opportunities to explore the self. You won't know who you are unless you have someone to compare it to, right? Forming deep understanding of other people, a foundation for future intimate relations. This is overlooked most of the time, but peer relations come before romantic relations. And peer relations may actually allow individuals to practice interpersonal skills, help deal with life stress, and they can improve attitudes and school involvement. And I see it even with you guys. Sometimes, like a random average student makes friends with a student who keeps getting A's, and then all of a sudden next year, this average student who's getting B's starts getting A's too, which is an awesome thing to see. I hope all of you guys get A's. And with that, we give 10-minute break. We will finish this chapter.